Hello and welcome to my beginner guide to bow. I will cover how to use the weapon in general, ranging from tactics to boon choice to optimal hammers. I will cover Zagreus aspect bow in more depth, but I will leave deeper analyses of Chiron, Hera, and hidden bow for separate videos. Also, anything I say about Zag bow applies to base bow as well. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment below and ask. From what I've seen, a lot of people really struggle with this weapon because, with most weapons in this game, you can just kind of swing at close range, and you're fine. You can do this with sword, spear, shield, and fists, and then rail. A lot of people, you can just kind of use Eris special and get crazy DPS. So that's not too difficult either. But a lot of people really struggle with bow, and I think that is because, in my opinion, bow is the most unique weapon in the game, because it requires specific timing to be good. You have to get good at doing these dash strikes if you are going to use the attack. And attack is the best strategy to use for Zagreus. You use attack on Hera, though casts is your main source of damage. And then Chiron you will use special, but you still will be attacking, and for smaller health enemies, it's often better to just kill them with a dash strike. Anyway, so with most weapons, you can be up at a very close range to deal your damage, and that's okay. With spear, you kind of want range, and with rail, you do too. But rail is kind of its own case because a lot of people struggle with it anyway. I'll probably be doing a video on that too. But bow, you need to be far away at the beginning when you don't have much damage to be safe. Once you have certain upgrades, like if you have triple shot or point blank shot, for example, then you'll deal a lot more damage if you're up close. You'll want to basically shotgun in your opponent's face, like this. Because it does significantly more damage, right? Similarly, if you have charged volley, then you can get in their face and fully charge special them, and even without a boon, that's incredible. One thing I'd recommend doing with that is, when they're spawning, you can just get up close and do that, and that's basically free, and that'll hit anyone. You want to stay at range until you have hammer upgrades that incentivize you to get close. And that's really only applicable to Zag or base bow. With Zagreus, typically, you'll start with Artemis Keepsake, and you will try and get Artemis Attack. If you can get Aphrodite, that's great, but typically you don't take her. Asphodel, you usually take Poseidon Keepsake and get Poseidon Dash. Any aspect that is really good at single target damage really likes to take Tidal Dash, and really likes to take Poseidon Keepsake in Asphodel pretty often in order to get that, because it allows you to deal significant splash damage, and you can just dash into lower health enemies maybe once or twice and they'll die. And that's really useful, especially once you palm it once or twice. It's very useful for DPS and for just getting enemies off of you as well. So, Zag aspect, you typically just take Artemis Attack, you get Poseidon Dash, and then besides that, really the only thing that you need to win is just hammers, which are guaranteed to get, and you will typically get good ones. For your first hammer, if you get charged volley, then you'll switch over to being a special focus playstyle, and it works really well. I've won runs very early on by just getting charged volley, and then you're just chilling. But in general, the things that buff your attack the most are Twin Shot, which essentially doubles your damage, but you have a shorter range. Sniper Shot is probably one of the worst attack hammers, as is Chain Shot. Explosive Shot and Flurry Shot are both kind of situational. If you personally enjoy using them, then go for it. Explosive Shot is good if you are using Artemis Attack, but it's a lot worse if you are using Aphrodite Attack. Because of the way multipliers work, it essentially means that the 300% bonus from Explosive Shot will be added to whatever percentage bonus you have from your boon, and that's basically worse with Aphrodite because Artemis gives you more crit chance. So if you're going for Explosive Shot, or really any of the percentage bonus ones, it's better to use Artemis. If you get something like Triple Shot, then theoretically Aphrodite is just as good because it's just an actual multiplier because there's more shots. But with Triple Shot, as I showed earlier, you do need to be up in their face, and doing that is difficult, especially if you have Tidal Dash. like sometimes it can be hard to tell how the enemies are going to move and if you're going to hit them with multiple arrows. For special hammers, Hera and Zagbo do not want Relentless Volley or Concentrated Volley pretty much ever. If you get Charged Volley or Piercing Volley, none of these three are good unless you get Charged Volley as your first hammer, in which case you would prefer to see Relentless or Concentrated Volley. Piercing Volley is still not great. Though it's still better than most attack boons in that case for your second hammer. But you never want these three as your first hammer as Zag or Hera bow. As Chiron bow, of course, Charged Volley isn't available. These three are what you want to see. Relentless and Concentrated are still better than Piercing. It depends on which kind of build you're going for with Chiron that determines which of these hammers is better. But really, all three of these are what you want. Besides that, getting Flurry Shot is handy, I guess, because it means you're spending less time doing your attack, which is nice. But yeah, that's about all that matters for Chiron. You can also do something like getting Dionysus on special. Like, it's pretty solid. And what you can do is you can target one enemy, hit them with your special, it'll fully stack them, and then, you know, like, hit another and special them too. There's a lot of different ways to improve hangover damage. What you can do is, you know, you start with the Dionysus, Keepsake, and then you take Artemis in Asphodel and try and get that duo, and then you can also take Ares, because Ares can get you Curse of Nausea. And what that does is it makes Hangover deal damage faster. And so if you look, like, that's already better DPS. And then a final option is you can do Ares, you can get Curse of Pain, and then maybe Dire Misfortune. But that was outperforming Heartrend, and it was like doing about the same as Sea Storm. It's very good. Personally, I think going Doom route or Hangover route is the best way to go with Chiron, but a lot of people seem to do other things. A lot of options. With Hera, there's a few things you can do, but in general, you are dealing most of your damage with cast. And the cast with the highest base damage in the game is Aphrodite's Crush Shot, which, you know, deals a substantial amount of damage. Typically, you do, you use Infernal Soul, so you can just stack it on there. Okay, so one thing to note, whenever you're doing any cast builds, Mirage Shot is pretty much the biggest damage increase to any cast build in the entire game, because it's a 30% multiplicative increase, basically. You just multiply however much cast damage you were doing by 1.3, and that's significant, because most, like, damage percent increases are, like, added together, and it's very good. So what you can do is you could start with, like, Poseidon, Keepsake, and then try and get Tidal Dash, because it's just really good for Hera bow. Like I said earlier, it's very good on any aspect that focuses on single target damage. And then you could try and hope to get any decent cast, because it doesn't matter all that much that you get Aphrodite cast. Any cast is solid. And once you do that, you can take Artemis, Keepsake, either in Asphodel or Elysium, depending on how you're doing it, and then try and get Mirage Shot, because it's so powerful. And that's really all you need to do with Hera. Getting Hermes, like the Hermes boon that makes casts fall out of enemies faster, is incredibly good. Greater recall, if you can get it, is decent. More casts or cast damage from Chaos is always nice. But besides that, like, hammers don't matter very much on Hera. Sometimes, what I've done with a few Hera runs is if you get Charged Volley, then your special actually becomes a really decent secondary source of damage. Like when your casts are on cooldown. But yeah, that wraps up this video on the bow. If you're looking for a more gameplay-oriented take on the bow, check this video out, and if you're interested in more analysis on the weapon as a whole, follow the link in the description. I will be working on in-depth looks at Chiron, Hera, and hidden bows soon. Subscribe to the channel to keep up to date. Thank you all for watching, and have a fantastic day.